ayes have it. The ayes have it.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Elliot Colburn.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I'd like to take the opportunity today, and in thanking you, sir, and the Speaker's office for allowing this adjournment debate, to talk about the cost of living pressures in my constituency of Carshalton and Wallington, and what fiscal support is available for my constituents. Now, of course, the government is absolutely right that the biggest enemy of the cost of living is inflation and the subsequent rising cost of everyday goods. But also interest rates affecting rents and mortgages and energy costs to heat our homes are problems that affect everyone in the country. And I do welcome the government's efforts in this area, and indeed we have seen inflation come down drastically from its peak, and interest rates on mortgages are starting to come down now from many banks, but there is still a long way to go. And the widespread effects of this make it an issue that we cannot ignore, and we need to provide help to people with solutions that get them through not just the winter, but further on as well. And I just want to point out that most often it is some of the most vulnerable in our society that face the most severe consequences. For example, older people who have weaved so much into the social fabric of our communities do have to contend with additional strain. And in my constituency, nearly 15,000 of my constituents are over the age of 65. 1,800 roughly have a long-term health condition, and over 4,500 of them are living alone. So it is vital that support is there for them. And in recognising the gravity of the situation, I am heartened to share what has already been done by the government and others to provide direct financial relief to those grappling with these cost of living challenges in Carshalton and Wallington. And first of all, I want to pay tribute to the cost of living payments for the year 22-23, which I think do stand as testament to this government supporting our constituents. Now, this £650 payment, payable over 2 instalments, has been extended to claimants of universal credit, legacy benefits and tax credits. And in my constituency, where roughly 8,000 households are on universal credit and 2,800 are on legacy benefits and tax credits, this equates to an estimated total payout of around £7.1 million of support. And this was exceeded in the following year of 23-24 to a staggering £9.1 million of support. Additionally, the £150 disability cost of living payment, which provides the recipients of these certain non-means tested disability benefits, including personal independence payments and attendance allowance, aims to provide relief to the 7,600 claimants in Carshalton and Wallington, with an estimated payout of around £1.1 million last year and £1.2 million this year. In addition, the £300 pensioner cost of living payment, coupled with the winter fuel payment, targets the 10,600 households in my constituency with an estimated payout of £3.2 million a year. And the £150 council tax discount payable to all those in households band A to D stands as an additional measure to alleviate the financial strain on the 30,500 properties in Carshalton and Wallington, with a total estimated payout of £4.6 million in the years 2022 to 23. So in total, the estimated value of these payments to my constituency for last year and the year before equates to some £30.1 million. And I do think that these figures underscore the government's commitment to directly address the financial challenges faced by our community, and I can only commend them for it. Furthermore, the additional support provided through the Energy Bill Support Scheme, which was designed to give supports directly for those facing higher energy bills, distributed in 6 equal payments between October 22 and March 23, provided an estimated £16.6 million for households in Carshalton and Wallington. And that's coupled with the energy price guarantee, which is worth about £625 per household, significantly reducing bills between October 22 and June 23, contributing an estimated value of £25.4 million to the 40,641 households in my constituency. So altogether, the estimated support for energy bill relief in my community stands at an impressive £42 million. Now, these measures, coupled by the ongoing commitment to address the broader cost of living challenges, signify a comprehensive approach to ensuring that the well-being and financial stability of my constituents is forefront. And I would just like to contrast this, Mr Deputy Speaker, with the actions of Labour and the Lib Dems in my constituency. Because the Labour Mayor of London has increased his share of council tax on my constituents by a whopping 71% since 2016. And that's without mentioning the £12.50 a day ULEZ charge he's put on the poorest Londoners, including small businesses and charities. The Lib Dem-run council as well have whacked up council tax by 41% since 2010, increased parking charges and voted in favour of expanding ULEZ to my constituency. But in commending the government, I would also encourage it to go further, to provide help for people, not just to make sure that they are aware of the benefits that are available to them, but also how to access them. We must put the needs of our constituents first and ensure that they can afford a warm roof over their heads and alleviate the burden of meeting the costs of daily essentials. Now, the support offered to my constituents by the government has indeed been generous, and I would urge my constituents to look at the Help for Households website to see how they may be assisted further. But in order to have sustainable long-term support, I believe we need to take a number of additional measures. Now, as well as the support packages I've already mentioned, the government has indeed already met its manifesto, already met its promise, apologies, Mr Deputy Speaker, to halve inflation. In addition to that, the national living wage has been increased, the pensions triple lock has been protected, benefits have been uplifted in line with inflation, a new mortgage charter has been agreed with lenders to prevent unaffordable rises, national insurance has been cut, saving families on average £450 a year, business rates have been frozen, and indeed much more has been done by this government to try and help. But in order to build on this success, inflation must of course continue to fall, but as we know, this only slows the rate of growth. Therefore, we must be relentlessly focused on growing the economy, leading to even higher wage growth than we have at the moment, continue to cut taxes further, leaving more money in people's pockets and putting their money back into the economy. We must continue to build confidence so that interest rates can come down, build more homes to reduce the cost of housing, and back British business and the risk takers to create high quality jobs, apprenticeships and opportunities for the next generation. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, I do want to commend the work that the government has done so far to provide support for my constituents and indeed for many across the country. And I do look forward to hearing from the Minister as to what further steps the government can take, especially through this winter, to support our constituents through these difficult times.
Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And let me begin by congratulating the member for Carshalton and Wallington for securing this debate. He is an asset to his constituents, who I'm sure will be pleased to be represented by him in the admirable way in which he has already done so this evening. He's decent, he has a clever mind, but most importantly, he has a good heart, and that heart is in Carshalton and Wallington. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I think all of us in this place recognise the difficult times through which the people of this country, and indeed the people around the world, have lived over the last couple of years. We have the COVID pandemic, Putin's illegal war in the Ukraine, long-gathering inflationary clouds that have created a perfect storm for all of us, but in particular a perfect storm for vulnerable people. But this government and this country has consistently fought back against the virus, alongside our Ukrainian friends, and critically, from a Treasury perspective, from the Treasury bench, against the economic headwinds. As my honourable friend has outlined already, over the last 2 years, this government has provided one of the largest support packages in Europe, in contrast to the damaging actions in his own area of the London Mayor and his local Liberal council. 11,300 households in Carshalton and Wallington were eligible for means-tested cost of living payment this financial year, and 8,500 individuals were eligible for the disability cost of living payment. These households, which my honourable friend mentioned in his speech, I think 30,500 households, properties in his constituency, along with all their neighbours, would have been eligible for the energy price guarantee, the £400 energy bill support scheme, the £150 council tax rebate, and fuel and alcohol duty cuts. Energy support alone has paid for almost half of the typical family's energy bill from October 2022 to June 2023 through both the energy price guarantee and the energy bills support scheme. Now, it is in part thanks to these measures that growth and real incomes have been stronger than expected this year. Not just stronger than expected by the OBR, but also stronger than expected by international economist forecasters. Inflation has also come down significantly to less than half its 2022 peak, and in November fell to 3.9%, the lowest rate in over 2 years. Again, something that was not forecasted by the OBR or international forecasters. Now, I don't deny that the outlook for real incomes remains challenging. It remains very challenging for many people, particularly vulnerable people in my honourable friend's constituency and across the country, as does inflation. But that is why we have announced further support at the autumn statement in November to support the most vulnerable. The government will raise the local housing allowance rates to the 30th percentile of local market rents in April 2024. Now, in plain English, what does that mean? That means that 1.6 million low-income households, they will be better off to the tune of average of about £800 in 2024-2025. Now, some, particularly members opposite, often say this isn't a lot of money. I can tell you, for that 1.6 million low-income households, that is considerable support that they will welcome, and indeed in my honourable friend's constituency. The government will also uprate all working age benefits in full by September 2023 CPI of 6.7%, which is considerably higher than inflation, to make sure that working age people on benefits are supported properly. This is 3 percentage points higher than forecasted earnings for 2024-2025, and again, this will help support the most vulnerable whilst inflation continues to fall. That is 5.5 million households on universal credit, gaining £470 on average in 2024-2025 financial year. Now, my honourable friend mentioned in his speech that 15,000 of his constituents are over 65. We are maintaining the triple lock in support of those people, in support of the pensioners across this country who have helped to build this country and work hard over the years gone by. The basic state pension, new state pension and pension credit standard minimum guarantee will be uprated in April 2024 in line with wage growth of 8.5% in the usual reference period. In 2024-2025, the full yearly amount of the basic state pension will be £3,750 higher in cash terms than 2010. Or to put it more simply, £995 more, almost £1,000 more than if it had been uprated by prices alone. Now, this comes on top of cost of living payments this year, helping more than 8 million British households on eligible means-tested benefits, 8 million pensioner households and 6 million people across the UK on eligible disability benefits. For individuals needing further support, local authorities in England continue to provide support through the Household Support Fund, which is backed by £1 billion of funding. This allows local authorities up and down England to provide crisis support for vulnerable households who need it the most, such as through supermarket or food bank vouchers. This means that from 2022 till 2025, total support to help households with the cost of living will be over £100 billion. £104 billion, an average of £3,700 per UK household. But I and the government know that short-term, relatively short-term help is not enough. Sustainably, the only sustainable way to help vulnerable people in this country, and indeed my honourable friend's constituency, and to improve their living standards, is to build a more prosperous future whilst remaining fiscally responsible. And the best way to do that is to grow the economy and get more people into better paid jobs, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Now, on growing the economy, this isn't the place for more statistics on GDP, but I would just say this. The autumn statement and the budget of last year in 2023, taken together, represented the biggest upgrade in GDP forecast that that the OBR has ever scored. And that is showing the commitment and the delivery of this government on growing the economy, which provides a better future for all of us. When it comes to getting people into better paid jobs, from the 1st of April 2024, the government is increasing the national living wage by 9.8% to £11.44 an hour for eligible workers aged 21 or over. This represents an increase of over £1,800 to the earnings of a full-time worker on the national living wage. That will benefit over 2.7 million low-paid workers. Employees across the country, only this month, have seen their main national insurance contributions rate cut by about 17%. That is, cut from 12% to 10% from January this year. And the main rate of Class 4 national insurance for the self-employed will be reduced in similar terms by 9%, from 9% to 8% from April this year. This tax cut is worth £9 billion a year, the largest ever cut for employee and self-employed national insurance. Now, taken together, the OBR expects that the measures announced at the spring budget and autumn statement will support nearly 200,000 additional people into work by the end of the forecast. We don't do this for academic reasons, we don't do this for fun. We do this because we know that giving more people more of their own money, allowing them to keep more of their own money, improves their living standards, and we can do this whilst increasing money for public services. Public services over the course of this Parliament are going to benefit from the public purse by an increase above inflation, despite the difficulties of the last couple of years, above inflation of over 3%. So we're doing this while supporting public services, whilst bringing down the deficit, whilst bringing down the debt, and we can do all of this because of our careful management of the economy, and that is going to benefit the vulnerable people in my honourable friend's constituency in Carshalton and Wallington and across the country. Mr Deputy Speaker, these measures underscore our government's unwavering commitment to supporting households up and down the country. We firmly believe that the key to a prosperous future lies in creating opportunities for everybody. The boost of the national living wage, the historic reduction in national insurance contribution are powerful tools in driving employment. Getting more people into work isn't just good for them, it's good for our economy. And improving living standards and a clear evidence of a government willing to act, as I said earlier, Mr Deputy Speaker, to the tune of over £100 billion over the last 3 years. By putting more money into the pockets of hard-working people, we're not only bolstering their financial well-being, but fueling economic growth. As always, we need to balance support for households with fiscal sustainability. The economic position does remain challenging. We continue to keep options under review as we take tough decisions to drive down debt, drive down inflation, and increase prosperity in every part of the United Kingdom. These are complex issues which affect all of our constituents, wherever we call home. And so I thank all members, but particularly you, because you're very kind, but particularly my honourable friend for Carshalton and Wallington. He cares deeply for his constituents. He's a brilliant advocate in this place, and it's honour to respond to him today.
And thank you for your kind words. The question is that this House do now adjourn. May I have that opinion? Say aye.
Aye.
If you know, I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. Order.
The proceeding has ended. 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 The proceeding